Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Today I want to talk to you about why it is so important for us to be able to open energy portals to higher dimensions. And in the spirit of Halloween, which is coming up very soon, I am taking $1,250 off of the price to learn the Maoshan Spirit Fighting Kung Fu forms. This will only be for 2 weeks. So go check that out at maoshan.thunderwizard.com. All right. So why is it so important for us humans to have the ability to tap into higher dimensions? It is because this planet is on the verge of a massive energetic shift, a massive shift into another dimensional space. And it is going to be imperative for human beings, not only on an emotional level, a psychological level, spiritual level, but on a physical level. It's going to be imperative that our bodies be able to handle that shift. So there are many ways to do this, but there are some fundamental issues, fundamental rules about how higher dimensional energy gets into our third dimension. And I'm going to share with you what has taken me 30 years to figure out. It has to do with the 8 directions and triangles and circles, and how all of these things, when you can tap into them and use them, how they all have the ability to channel higher dimensional energies directly into your body. And let me tell you why that is so important. In order to understand why this is such an important thing, we need to understand the reality that we live in. So, as you know, we live in a multidimensional universe. Just our universe. We're not talking about all of the other universes that exist. And this is true for other universes as well, but in our universe, we live in a multi-dimensional universe. We only experience 3-dimensional space-time. We are actually involved in 4 dimensions, the 3 dimensions of the physical space, and that is in the 4th dimension of linear time. So we are functioning within 4 dimensions, but it is accurate to say that we live in 3D. That is accurate. In 3D, our experience is that time moves from past to future. It is our experience that we are trapped in this flow of time, and we experience this flow of time from past to future as being one timeline. And we experience it as something that cannot be deviated from. So this experience that we have is where we've come up with the idea of destiny, that you cannot escape your destiny. Your destiny is written in the stars and you cannot escape it. You know, this is what the Greek tragedies are about, that in the beginning of a Greek tragedy, some some shaman will give a prediction as to what will happen. And then it'll usually be bad. And the person will, having heard this, will then go and take actions trying to outrun their horrible destiny. And it is in fact the actions that they take in an attempt to avoid their destiny is what causes the horrible thing to happen. Oedipus is a good example. But that is a very common human experience, that we think that our destiny is part of this linear time, and that from point A to point Z, from birth to death, is one timeline that you cannot escape. And it is our experience that our physical reality is a concrete reality. In fact, I just watched a video a couple of days ago that had just come out. Apparently, I don't know how they figure this stuff out, but physicists had come to the conclusion that our universe is not real. And, they get into depth about, what that means. But it is our experience that our physical reality is real, and that time is a stream that goes from past to future, and it cannot be altered, and a timeline cannot be shifted and changed, and that you have very limited options within that timeline. Okay, I think I've beat that horse to death. So that is our experience. But that is only the experience of three-dimensional reality. If we move to a higher dimension, or if we at least incorporate into our consciousness the existence of higher dimensions interacting with us, everything that I've just said about your experience becomes an illusion. It is untrue. What actually takes place in our reality is that each moment that you are experiencing, each moment is manifested every nanosecond from a probable timeline, a probable reality. I'm using the word probable. That doesn't mean that there's only a few. From our perspective, the probabilities are infinite. And it just means the difference between probability and possibility is that possibilities are endless. That I could have 15 heads and 25 eyes, and I could have, orange juice for blood. The possibilities are endless. The probability of that happening is statistically impossible. Anything is possible according to physics, but the probability is so low. It's just not going to happen. So when we talk about probable timelines, we're talking about infinite numbers of probable realities, and we are manifesting in every nanosecond. I've been talking now for minutes. So the amount of probable realities that you and I have manifested since I started talking is beyond count, because each nanosecond, one right after the other. And so what ends up happening is that these nanoseconds where a reality, a probable reality is manifested, we can imagine them stacking up like, slices of bread. You think you have this loaf of bread. That's your life from birth to death. You think it's a loaf of bread. That's this unit. But the truth is that every moment that happens, a slice is being put in front of you. I'm using that because people, I'm so old that people used to use slide projectors. Remember slide projectors? Or films. Films were one picture after another. And the idea of what, you turn on the film projector, and the film that looks like, some ongoing reality is actually one frozen piece, one frozen picture put in front of the other. And that is what our reality is. And each one of those frozen moments that's manifested in front of the other, when we string them together, we experience the flow of time. But what just happened 10 seconds ago doesn't necessarily mean that what's going to happen 10 seconds from now is going to be directly related to that. The probability is very high that everything will stay the same. It's the probability that this cup of tea is going to remain in my hand for the next 5 seconds is extremely high, but it is not a given. There is a probable reality where this magically disappears. And if you had the power and the freedom to do that, you could make that happen. This is what happens with not the charlatans, but actual true spiritual masters who have the ability to make things appear in their hand. I remember hearing a story about the founder of the Maoshan tradition that I learned from, and we're talking 100 years ago. And he had some people over at his house, and he was living in this small little home, very humble existence. And these people said, "You're a Tao master. How come you're not living in a mansion? How come you don't have lots of money?" And he said, "Money's easy to get." He says, "I can get as much money as I want." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Just give me a second." He meditated, and then this pile of money appeared on the table. And they said, "Where'd you get that?" He said, "I got it from the bank down the street." And then he closed his eyes, and the money disappeared and went back into the vault. So that's one idea of somebody who has tapped into higher dimensions. But you and I, we look at that and we go, "Oh my God, if I could do that, I would be manifesting piles of money, every day. I wouldn't work. I'd sit around and eat Cheetos and bonbons." But when you get to the point where you actually have that much energy going through you and you're that connected, you realize it's all meaningless. You only choose to manifest what feeds you and comforts you and gives you pleasure, and having more than what you need, you find out real quick, is pointless. The only reason people amass wealth and amass things, objects, is because they're afraid. They're afraid, and they believe that somebody's going to come along and take away their money or their stuff. So they hoard it in the delusion that will somehow help them stay safe in the future. But for a spiritual master who is connected to higher dimensions, who is connected to the ever-present conscious energy that is continuously creating or giving us the ability to create our reality, then he's only interested in having what he needs in each successive moment. How many beds can you sleep in at one time? How many cars can you drive at one time? How many cups of coffee can you drink at one time? This is tea, by the way, not coffee. If I have 2 cups of coffee, I have to take. So, you come to realize you just use what's in front of you and what you need, and you don't worry about the rest. So, what does this have to do with anything? We are entering into a tremendously powerful transition. And when we get into the new energy experience that we are headed toward, I'm hesitating saying 5D, because technically I don't think we're going to move into 5D, because if that were to be the case, it would be so bizarre you wouldn't even be able to comprehend it. What I believe is going to happen is we are going to enter into a higher level of space-time, where we will still be in 3-dimensional space-time, except that we will be aware that every single moment that we experience is something that is manifested. And we could be sitting there and decide, hey, you know what? I just realized that I want a second story built on this house. And then you manifest a second story on your house. I realized that I would like to have, I'd like to have a forest in the backyard. Next thing you know, there's a forest in the backyard. And it's not because you're creating the forest. It's because you're simply shifting from one probable manifested reality to another. Like imagine you're sitting in the middle of a circle, and there's like a television screen that's wrapped around you, and it's multiple screens, and in each one of those multiple television screens is a different probable reality that's slightly different than the one next to it. And you can, with your remote, you can click and have them move until you find the one that you want, and then press a button and that gets manifested. That's a crude example, but that, I believe, is where 3D is headed. 3D is not going to change, but we will be aware that every single moment that we exist is created every single moment. And so our thoughts, our intentions will be manifested instantly. So it will have properties of the fifth dimension, but I think it'll still be in 3D. All right, so let's understand how we can take advantage of these powers right now. So what we have available to us right now is, as you can see here, this is a thunder wheel on the left, and you can see all of that has 8 directions. This is the 5 elements in the thunder wheel. And in the thunder wheel there, you can see all of those lines are pointing to the 8 directions. Why is that important? I've shown this to you before if you've seen it, but it's good to see things again. So take a look at this picture. This picture, I want you to focus on the shadow. So that shadow is the shadow of a 4th dimensional cube. Now, why it's important to focus on the shadow is because we would not be able to see with our physical eyes a 4th dimensional cube. You wouldn't be able to see it because we can't see or experience anything in higher dimensions. But we could see the shadow of that 4th dimensional cube. And the shadow of the 4th dimensional cube in the 3rd dimension will look like that shadow. And if you can see on that shadow there, that shadow is pointing to the 8 different directions. So now we're back to that. So this thunder wheel, when you look at it in 3D, is actually connecting you to 5D and above. Because this is how these dimensions would manifest in 3D. And so if you look over here, this is, I'm calling it a thunder wheel, but we could also call this a bagua, which is in the Taoist tradition, you see an 8-sided diagram. And the bagua means the 8 gates. We could call them the 8 portals, the 8 doors. And each one of these directions is a doorway into higher dimensions. And what I used to believe is that these were symbolic. I came to find out, I've been doing this for 30 years, I've been practicing in these higher dimensional practices for 30 years. I came to find out that the Taoists, the Vedics, my ancestors, the Norse, and I'm forgetting somebody else here, they all had an 8-directional wheel. They had different names for it. But the qualities of each of the 8 directions were identical. And I came to realize that shamans all over the world, when they look at 3-dimensional reality objectively, they will all come to the same conclusion, that each one of these 8 directions has a specific energy associated with it. And by facing each one of these directions, you can gain the powers of those directions. The entities that live in those specific directions, you can work with them. And I didn't know why that was the case. I just knew that it was. I also knew that energy flowed in a clockwise fashion, and that when you work with an 8-directional wheel and you flow in a clockwise fashion, that you actually bring in power. And when you do that and then have an intention, you have the ability, you have a more likely chance of manifesting that intention. Now, I didn't know why that worked before. I just knew that it did. And I saw that shamans all over the world for thousands of years had come to that same conclusion. And, just from personal experience, I can tell you, having been through a hurricane, which goes counterclockwise, it is the most evil feeling energy I've ever experienced. And it's because of that. It's a very destructive force. It serves a function because it gets rid of excess heat and does, helps the, the energy balance itself out. But it was for 3 days straight here in Florida, it was like being screamed at by my psychopathic grandmother. It was just this really horrible, evil, deeply, deeply yin, feminine, nasty energy. Not the good kind of feminine energy, the nasty kind. So I know from multiple experiences that energy going in a clockwise fashion creates. It creates, it doesn't destroy. So when you see me doing all the stuff that I'm doing in this video that you've seen me, I've put up a couple of videos. Whenever you see me doing this kind of stuff, which is what I teach here at maushan.thunderwizard.com and up here at thunderwizard.com, both of these have the Maushan energy movement practices within them. Whenever you're working with those, you are, without realizing it, because I haven't pointed it out necessarily, except here I really talk about the 8 directions here on the Maushan. But when you're doing a lot of the practices that you've been doing here, when you're doing the rituals, you just follow my directions. Hopefully I tell you to look, to deal with each one of the 8 directions and whatever it is that I tell you to do. And you feel what happens in your body. The energy in your body goes through the roof. And that's because we don't understand it. We think we're just doing some simple movements, but what we don't realize is that we are tapping into higher dimensional forces. And these higher dimensional forces is what gives us the power and the ability to shift our reality. So why is that? How is it that we can be in 3D, fully in the 3rd dimension, and yet have experiences that should be reserved for 5D and above? The reason that we can do that is because when you work with the 8 directions in a proven method, what ends up happening is you end up bringing into your specific space, more likely from inside your body, you bring into your body higher dimensional energies. And if you were to be living in the 5th dimension, you would have instant access to every single probable reality. In fact, you would be living in a reality where you could see every single probability reality playing itself out, and you could, for instance, let's just say you saw 10 different probable realities playing themselves out. You wouldn't have to pick one. Like we do in the 3rd dimension, we have to pick one reality and that's the one we get to experience. But in the 5th dimension, if you had 10 different probable realities, you could split off into 10 different copies of yourself. Each one of those copies is as fully conscious and fully you as the other one. And you could go into each one of those 10 different probable realities and live them out and experience them completely. And you would still be one person, but you would, like Dr. Manhattan, you would be doing multiple things and you would be 100% involved in each one of those multiple things that you're doing. So that's the 5th dimensional reality. That's why I say I don't think we're going to move into 5D, because that's so bizarre and so far removed from what we understand that I just don't think that making that jump that quickly. I just don't think it's realistic. And based on what I've experienced in my meditations and my visions, and other people who've had similar ones, it's more like they're just going to have that higher dimensional ability, which is they can shift different realities into their 3D experience. Like I said, you want to live in a house that has 2 stories instead of 1, you just simply shift your conscious choice, and right in front of your eyes, your house changes into a 2-story house. That's just one example. So, on this channel, if you go to the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, by the way, again, this is why I tell you, if you're listening to my channel and you're not doing the exercises, you are keeping yourself from 99% of the power. If you go on to thunderwizard.com YouTube channel and you go to the playlists, you will see Qigong, you will see the Maoshan, you will see rituals, you will see mantras, you will see practices that use these 8 directions. There's some of the simple ones are, how to manifest $10,000 using the Fehu Rune ritual, and I teach you how to do a really simple working with the 8 directions. And when I made that video, I didn't realize why it worked. I just knew that it did, but now I know. Because when you face each one of those 8 directions in a clockwise fashion, and you put an intent behind it, and you bring energy into it, you are in essence stepping up to the 5th dimension, and you're looking around at these different possibilities, and you're picking the one that you want, and you bring it back into 3D and creating it. So imagine if you had the ability to go even beyond that. What if you had the ability to shift your body, the cells of your body, the DNA in your body, the life force energy, the Kundalini energy? We haven't even talked about the lightning energy in your heart. What if you had the ability to use very simple movements to raise your body level up to something that if 5D were to descend on you, your body would be able to tolerate it. Your mind would be able to go there. So here I am now at 59, and I've been doing these practices for 30 years. And I can tell you, as many of you are experiencing who are doing the thunderwizard.com lightning qigong, and those of you who are brave enough to do the Maoshan practices, the 5 element practices specifically, you are experiencing the power. In fact, I just spoke with somebody a couple days ago who's doing the lightning qigong, and to their credit, this person wanted to experiment, so they did more than what was recommended, and they realized the power was so much and so intense that it was causing them some distress. It was too much, so they had to back off, and we laughed about it. And I said, well, that's why I recommended doing what I told you to do, but now you know. And for years, I was living in this space in between, and I didn't have anybody to explain all of this to me. Yeah, I had my teacher and his teacher, but the truth is, I've come to find out even they were sort of living in this in between space between realities, and even that they were a little bonkers as a result of it. And it took a lot of energy for me to stay in 3-dimensional reality. I didn't have enough power to shift out of my body into the next reality, but I didn't even know what the heck that was. I didn't understand about the 5th dimension and the 6th and the 7th. I didn't know the things that I know now. And I didn't understand the beings that lived in those dimensions that were interacting with me and teaching me on the subtle level. And I had all kinds of crazy powers that if I wasn't careful, if I touched somebody Sometimes after I'd been practicing, for hours and hours doing this stuff right here, sometimes if I touched somebody, if I wasn't careful, I would, they would relive some past life scenario. They would fall to the floor and start weeping because, something in their heart chakra opened up, or, something like that. I didn't understand what I was dealing with. Now I do. I have a much better understanding of what I'm dealing with. So when you train with me in these practices, now you get to go through the same kinds of things that I went through, but you won't be in the dark, not knowing what the hell's happening. It won't be as frightening for you as it was for me. So we have the free practices, which I recommend everybody do. And I'm going to give you those right now. Okay, so my main interest is that you do the practices and you shift and you change. And the first practice, if you're new, is to do the whole breath. And I'm writing it down here. You can search for that on my channel. You can search for it anywhere, Google, Yahoo, wherever, and it'll come up and you'll see the videos, maybe other people's videos that have learned from me as well. And you can learn that. That is the basic meditation practice that if you learn that, that's what's going to initiate you into the spiritual family that teaches me. All right. The next thing I would recommend if you want power and you're looking for the free stuff, because maybe I need to change what I manifest, but I don't know why, but the vast majority of people just refuse to pay even the slightest bit of money for stuff. So I'll give it to you for free. If you can handle it and keep going and you're ready for the real stuff, then you know where to come. So this is a practice. This is the Awakening the Immortals. Awakening the Immortals. I'm just writing it here. You can find that if you go onto the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel and you go to the playlist, you'll find that. If you do the whole breath and the Awakening the Immortals practice every day, I guarantee you will have a massive shift. Massive. If you do it every day for a month, there's no way that your entire reality won't shift. If you are dead serious about being able to make this shift into what we're calling 5D, here is my recommendation. My recommendation is to go here to thunderwizard.com. Go to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong and subscribe. All you have to do is go to phase 1, morning practice, click play, watch the video, and just do what I'm doing. You don't even have to understand it. When you do that, you will be tapping directly into the 3 energies that up until now you would have to go to different parts of the world. Again, if you guys realized what was being offered to you for freely, openly, I mean, it blows me away that this is available to humans. And it blows me away that I'm the one doing it. Nobody else has done this, to the best of my knowledge. The 3 energies you will have access to just by pressing play and doing the energy work is that you will have access to life force energy, which we call Qi. Qi is the life force energy in your cells. Every time you inhale oxygen, you're actually bringing life force energy into your body. When you build up the energy, the life force energy in your body, you can overcome illness, you can overcome feelings of weakness. You'll have a direct connection to the energy of the universe and you'll realize it's infinite. You will feel a greater love, you will feel a greater empowerment, you will feel more empowered within yourself, you will not feel so isolated. You'll also be able to be working with Kundalini, which is the energy that goes up the spinal column through the chakras, and that is awareness, spiritual awareness. If you wanted to learn these two different practices, you would have to go to two different parts of the world. You'd have to go to China and learn Qigong, then you'd have to go to India and learn some type of Kundalini yoga in order to really manifest them. All you have to do is just press play and you get both of them. And then there's the hidden power that almost nobody knows about, which to my knowledge only the Mao Shan had mastery of, which is the Shin. This is the heart mind. And this energy was reserved only for the very elite spirit fighting sorcerers of the Mao Shan tradition. And you know, a lot of people don't understand that the Mao Shan tradition that you hear about now, these are folk magicians who are stealing the Mao Shan name in order to make themselves look powerful. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. But the original Mao Shan was called Shang Qing, which meant the heaven of greatest purity. And it was this energy, this high vibrational energy that was used to cleanse the world of negativity. And this is why these sorcerers had the ability to go and fight demons with their bare hands, do exorcisms, healings, and things like that, because they were getting energy from what? Higher dimensions. The energy of greatest purity. And this comes through the lightning center of the heart. You have this tremendously powerful lightning energy that is normally dormant, self-contained, and it's if the soul is here, the lightning energy is cradling the soul. What if you could take that energy and turn it outward? It's very simple. The Mao Shan knew how to do very simple movements that would open up that lightning energy and have it fill the body. And of course, your awareness changes and all of that. Imagine having all three of those. To my knowledge, that has never been introduced to the public by any spiritual practice. I'm giving it away to you. So you can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe there to the Lightning Qigong and just simply follow the instructions. You'll have access to this energy. What is happening right now for 2 weeks only is I am giving you access to the spirit fighting forms, specifically the 5 elements. There's ones above that, which hopefully we'll be able to learn as well. But the spirit fighting forms I'm giving you for 2 weeks only. I'm taking off $1,250 so that this can be available to anybody who wants to learn it. When you combine those 5 element Mao Shan fighting, spirit fighting forms with the Lightning Qigong, now you can say that you are in the Mao Shan University. You're actually learning stuff that has not been taught for centuries. I'm teaching you meditations, I'm teaching you mudras, I'm teaching you mantras, I'm teaching you all of the stuff we already talked about. So the combination of that, to my knowledge, is the modern Mao Shan University. That's, again, I don't think you're going to find anywhere. All right, so that is what I'm making available to you. So it's incredibly important that in the West, what has gone wrong with Western civilization, I mean, many things have gone wrong, but one of the main things that has gone wrong with Western civilization is that in the West, we are stuck in our heads. Those of you who just come and watch the channel and you don't do any of the practices, even the free practices that I give you, you will not be able to translate that intellectual knowledge into power. And this is one of the illusions that the Western mind thinks. The Western mind thinks if I have a bunch of intellectual awareness, I will have power. And you won't. You will not be able to take that intellectual knowledge and do anything with it other than sit around and think about it. If you have access to simple energy movements, physical movements that flip switches on inside of your body, that flip switches in your immediate environment. Let me explain to you what happens when these portals are opened. When you open an energy portal to another dimension, that means powers and entities from higher dimensions can now manifest in your immediate environment. And perhaps they would be able to do that anyway. We could debate whether or not they're able to manifest in our reality if we don't open up the portals. But certainly what happens is when you open up a portal to a higher dimension, you actually end up taking yourself out of the 3D space-time continuum. You take yourself out of that. A lot of times when people do these meditations and these energy practices, time will do funny things. You know, they may be meditating and think they're only meditating for a few minutes, and then they open their eyes and they realize they've been meditating for 2 hours. Or they might be doing something that feels like they've been doing it for 2 hours, and then they realize it's only been a few minutes have gone by. So you open up a portal that takes you out of that, what we experience as a prison. We experience 3D linear space-time as a prison that we can't get out of. And there's some truth to that. So even though I give people a hard time for whining and complaining and being victims, the truth is that if you don't have the power to access these higher dimensions, then you are going to experience a limited 3D space-time prison. And what you will experience is that you will feel as though you don't have any power to change your life. If you just keep your eyes open and interact with people, you will see no shortage of people that say that they can't do anything. You know, that no matter what they do, life doesn't work for them. You can tell them, you know, what you can see, here's the obvious thing you need to do to change, but they won't hear you. It'll bounce right off of their heads and they'll just refuse to take any action, or they'll continue to take action in a negative way, or even worse, they will try and take positive action, but it doesn't accomplish anything. And one of the reasons for this is because this is a symptom of somebody who keeps manifesting, you know, that slice of bread that keeps manifesting a reality based on, you know, an unchanging storyline. They don't have the power to change their storyline. They don't have the power to change their assumptions. They don't have the power to change their mood states. They don't have the power to change anything inside of themselves. And so therefore, every moment that manifests will be exactly the same. And they can't get out of it. Well, one of the ways out of that is to be able to tap into higher dimensional energies, to create an energy portal. This happens when you do your rituals. If you've gone to astrology.thunderwizard.com and you've gotten a mantra ritual from me or from one of my astrologers, again, astrology.thunderwizard.com. If you've gone there and done that, you are creating a portal that allows you to go into your unconscious mind and change your origin story within your own brain. Once you do that, that allows you to manifest different slices of reality. But imagine being able to, at will, simply thinking of something and making it happen. My soulmate, who's no longer with me, well, she is with me, just not in the 3D realm. My soulmate, we were out for lunch once. And let's see, something was really bothering me. Something in my life, my physical living situation was really bothering me. And I was complaining about it. And then I caught myself complaining about it, and I said, hang on. Okay, I have to decide what I want. And I sat there for, 30 seconds, and I tapped into my soul, and I became aware of what I wanted. And I said, now I know what I want. And then I said, very matter-of-factly, I said, what I'm going to have is I'm going to have, and I spelled out, something that was going to change, which based on the reality I was in was impossible. There was no way I was going to find the resources or the opportunity to create what I said I was going to do. But I knew that if I could just become conscious of what I truly wanted, and if I spoke it out loud, matter-of-factly, then it would happen. So I said, oh, what I want is this. So that's what's going to happen. Okay, anyway, so how was your day? And she looked at me and she said, you're not human. I said, what are you talking about? Of course I'm human. She says, no, you're not human. She said, normal people can't do what you just did. Because it turned out, 2 weeks later, I had exactly what I said I was going to have. And it was totally impossible for me to manifest that. But once I had it, then it was like, oh yeah, well, of course. It's because I shifted. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I didn't know anything about 5D or any of that stuff that I just explained to you. I just knew that if I knew what it was that I wanted, and I made the determination that I was going to have it, even if I had no idea how to make it happen, the combination of knowing what I truly wanted and then deciding I was going to have it, that's all I needed to do, and then it would happen. But I was so used to it, it didn't seem unusual to me. But she did me a favor and she said, that's not normal. Human beings can't do what you just did. You're not human. So, of course, I am human, and so are you, and this is actually a power that humans have. But this is, and that's because, for almost 30 years, I had been working with these 8 directions. I had been doing these practices. And so I had this innate ability that I learned 30 years ago. I just didn't realize that's what it was. It used to boggle my mind why people were so entrenched and so miserable, and why they couldn't just decide what they wanted and make it happen. I couldn't understand it. Anyway, so now you get a better idea what's going on. You have access to the free stuff. There's no excuse. Look, there's no excuse. I've given it to you. I have given you these practices. Literally given to you practices that if I had given to you 20 years ago, some 6-foot tall Korean guy, who's my teacher's teacher, would have knocked on my door and sat me down, and he would have told me, you can't teach this in public. I am teaching you things for free on this channel that would have gotten me in serious trouble. And if you don't take it and do something with it, I don't know what to, I don't even know how to respond to that. People used to get on my case because they thought I was charging money for everything. And so I got in the habit of telling everybody in every video, there's free stuff here. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that I am teaching you, very high level stuff that I'm giving out for free. If you are not taking advantage of them, you have nothing to complain about. You're choosing to deny yourself the keys to tapping into higher dimensions and doing something about it, changing your reality. If you're really serious about this, I am even making it easier for you. This lightning qigong, again, I don't understand why I don't have thousands of subscribers. It costs less than it would cost for you to go get your Starbucks coffee that you wait in line for every day. That destroys your kidneys and your adrenals and destroys your nerves. For less than that, you could be doing practices that would cost you that would have costed me. I mean, to learn this stuff, the maoshan.thunderwizard.com, I can't tell you how much money I spent getting my teacher to teach me those things. And I was happy to pay it. I was privileged to pay it. I'm glad I paid it. Because it cost me so much money to learn these things, I know them. I know them in my sleep. I'll never forget them. That's how valuable they are to me. They've given me the ability to decide what it is that I want and just make the decision that that's what's going to happen, and that's what happens. Reality shifts, reality changes to meet my desire, and now I know, because I've now been working consciously and directly with the light beings who gave us these practices, that we are constantly living in a probability. And now I know that what I was doing is I was just shifting probabilities. I didn't know how I was doing it, but now I do. I can't make it any easier for you. So if you want to have that ability, take advantage of the free stuff. If you're serious about really learning this, my recommendation is to go to maoshan.thunderwizard.com and to get that Maoshan 5-element spirit fighting forms and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. The combination of those two things, I guarantee you, you will not find anything, free or paid, in the world. You will not find anything this powerful. I challenge you to prove me wrong, but the only way you'll be able to do that is if you try it. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. This is a question and answer. Let's take a look. Let me get rid of a troll here just a second. Let's see, let's try this one. All right, we'll get rid of that. Okay, let's go up here. Let's see, anybody else I need to get rid of? No. Vincent.thunderwizard.com, he says hello. He is one of my Vedic astrologers. That is his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com. He's also a shaman in his own right. Go check him out. Let's see. Thundra says hello, and she is one of my Vedic astrologers also. Her website is Thundra, THUNDRA.thunderwizard.com, a very powerful shamaness in her own right. Go check that out. Thundra.thunderwizard.com. What else? Looking for the questions. Stephanie says, why was my message deleted? I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't delete it. It says message retracted. Zeralath, honest feeling. I used candlemancy. I don't know what that means. You're talking about something I've never done. Candlemancy, is that some magic with candles? You say, I used candlemancy to the chakras and 8 directions with immortal qigong. I feel more balanced and adjusted to the world before me. Great. I love that. Listen, when you have a grasp of how the 8 directions work, you can apply it in just about any, I don't know, but just about any. You can apply it with many different practices. And I encourage people to experiment with it and to learn. I have students who have learned my rune stuff, they've learned my qigong stuff, they've learned my thunder shamanism, which is, again, the books. Again, if you're on my channel and you don't know what my books are, again, all this stuff is available for you. By the way, I'm almost done with my ET book, my experience with ETs. I'm almost done with that, which I will give to all of you a free link which will allow you to listen to the audiobook. And that, of course, I'm doing that so that you can give me good reviews, because I hope to make hopefully some money off of the audiobooks. I heard you can make money off of audiobooks. So that's coming up soon. But yeah, go find my books at michaelwilliamdenny.com or courses.thunderwizard.com. You can see where my books are, or just type it in Amazon. You should find my books. All right. I already said that. Jedi Black Knight, honest feeling. I see that England has its first pagan prime minister. I didn't even know that there was a new prime minister. I see that England has its first pagan prime minister. I'm not a fan of him, just another World Economic Forum puppet. Oh, okay, so who cares? But I'm quite excited about what this could mean at a very unconscious level. Okay, interesting. That's not a feeling. It's not really a feeling, but anyway, I appreciate the information. I guess you're quite excited as a feeling. I guess there's a feeling there. Timothy Zoll, question. I'm sorry, Jedi Black Knight, that was a feeling. I guess I'm just so not interested in politics. So my apologies for that. I'm just so not interested in politics that I don't want to know. I don't care. I don't care who's in power. I want to say I'm beyond that. But I just don't care anymore. Having said that, it's okay that you have feelings about it. So don't let my crankiness affect you. Timothy Zoll, question. When doing energy work, I've noticed the slower I move, the greater the energy. Can you please explain why this is the case? It depends on what energy work you're doing. If you are doing this stuff, then going slow or going fast will create different energies. Specifically, the 5-element work. It's one of the most interesting practices. I mean, there isn't anything in the world like it. Nothing. It looks like your basic, Southern Shaolin Kung Fu practice. It's, anybody who's done Southern Shaolin can look at it. Anybody who's done, not the stuff I'm doing right there, but the actual forms. Anybody who's done, that Southern Chinese style, they'll recognize that right off the bat until they learn it. And then they'll find out really quickly that there are things in there that are hidden that you won't find in any other art. And whether you do it fast or slow, you have to do it slow in the beginning, because if you don't, you'll muscle it. And if you muscle the moves, the energy won't show up. So for most people, when they go fast, it means that they're muscling it. And when you're using your muscle, it means you're using your intellect. So even though I'm going fairly fast there, I have zero muscle contraction going on. I mean, if you were to touch my hand or to touch my arm, you would see that I wasn't flexing at all. There was no, I've been lifting weights, so you kind of hard to tell. But when I was practicing this stuff, and I was in my prime practicing, 4 hours a day, I was 145 pounds. I'm 205 pounds now. So you can imagine, how much muscle I had lost. And I had trimmed down to 145 pounds. And so if you were to grab onto my arm while I was doing the movements, your fingers would just go right through my arm. There was no physical strength whatsoever going on in those practices. But I would be going so fast, you wouldn't be able to see me. Like I would be a blur in front of you. And I was nothing compared to my teacher, and he was nothing compared to his teacher. So going slow in the beginning means that you don't use any physical strength. And then when that happens, the energy can flow through the meridians. Now, when you can do the 5-element practices without any physical tension whatsoever, purely with your intention, then you'll find that the forms start going faster and faster. In fact, you may not realize you're going fast, but somebody watching you will think you're going fast because you're actually shifting and phasing out of 3D space-time, and you're going into another, time starts taking on something different. One of the strangest things that happens with people who train in the martial art, which I'm currently not teaching, I teach the forms, but I don't teach you how to use it in a fight, But for people who do that, one of the interesting things that happens is you get this power where your opponent, even if they go to strike you first, you will hit them before they hit you. And there was this strange thing that would happen if I was in some kind of a sparring thing, where if somebody started to move, I would be able to strike them on the body where they were about to strike, even though they moved before I did. I could tell before anything happened, just by letting go, I would see my hands moving without me thinking about it. My spirit would be ahead in time doing things. My 3D brain would be watching this. This is what happens when you start getting into that space, which you're talking about. You're talking about the slower that you go, the more energy you feel. But it's not about how fast. It's about how little physical energy you're putting into it. When you're not putting any physical energy into it, it's all spirit. The only thing that will move you is the spirit. But in the beginning, you're right. Anybody, if they don't work with me physically or work with me through a session, you probably should go slow, because that's a guaranteed way to stay in the energy and stay out of your physical body and out of your intellect. I hope that explains your question. Jedi Black Knight's having the same experience there. Buddy Kane Helm, honest feeling. I'm so grateful to have access to the 90-day challenge and your video teachings. It makes me so happy beyond what words can express. Well, that's thrilling to hear that something I'm doing is giving somebody that much happiness. And that's very fulfilling for me, and I'm very happy to hear that. It's done the same for me, which is why I'm sharing it. I share it because, as I said, I wasn't allowed to share with this stuff. I wasn't even allowed to talk about it openly. And I was very reticent, and I was nervous. I waited for the Grand Master to pass away. Out of respect for him, I didn't publicly use the name or teach. I didn't teach the 5 element practices publicly or on video out of respect to the Grand Master. And when he passed away, I felt a really strong impetus from the Ascended Masters to tell me to teach this stuff, and that I needed. This is one of the reasons I learned it, was so that I could give it to the world, because these are the practices that are going to allow people to shift to what we're calling the 5D. So I'm really glad that it makes you happy. It makes me happy as well, and so I'm glad to share it. Buddy Kane Helm, honest feeling. My mother's been doing the 30 minutes of your practices for about 30 days every day, and is working through many traumas and is healing her physically as well. This makes me ecstatic. That makes me really happy to hear that. And that, guys, if I really wanted to toot my own horn, I would make a video with all of the testimonials I get. I don't do that. Maybe I should, but I don't. But some of the testimonials that come back, people ask me questions, and they'll talk about their specific thing. They'll say, does doing the lightning qigong, is it normal for, and they'll say some physical ailment that disappeared. Some lifelong physical ailment on their skin, or their, in their blood, or, something like that just magically went away. And I said, no, it's not uncommon. You're working with higher dimensional energies. And what ends up happening, here's one of the things that's happening. We could say, well, it's because more energy is going into the physical tissues, which is true. We could say it's because you're relaxing. This is true. It's because you're moving. This is true. But one of the things that's going on is that in order to, or the result of doing these practices is that things in your unconscious self-directed hatred, unconscious self-directed limitation will rise to your conscious mind. And you will have some challenging feelings depending on who you are. And when you release those feelings, those programs in your unconscious disappear. And this is what physical illness is. This is what age is. When people have debilitating age, limiting stuff. I mean, there's some things about age that are unavoidable. I mean, you're going to get wrinkles no matter, how spiritual you are. I can't go and surf double overhead waves anymore. Just the paddling through all those waves. I mean, I just don't have the strength to do it. I can go in the gym and lift as much as I ever have, but so there's some things about age I'm never going to, at least so far. But in terms of like debilitating, like joint pain, arthritis, stiffness, all the stuff that the age-related illnesses, all those things are really just lifetimes of negative, emotional, unresolved issues that are just lodged in your unconscious that get manifested in your physical body. When you do these practices, you have greater access, because of the energy, to release these unconscious issues, which means that energy that's trapped in your physical body gets released as well. So I'm really happy to hear that, and I'm so happy to hear that. And again, I should be telling everybody every time somebody gives me one of these, I should be sharing it, but I don't know. I don't. Let's see. Jedi Black Knight is going to explain himself. He doesn't have to. I got cranky with him. He's going to explain himself. He doesn't need to. You're fine. You don't need to defend yourself. But he's just to make him feel better. He says, I was referring to UK's new Hindu PM Rishi Sunak. But technically Hindus are pagans, right? Well, they're polytheists. I think the word pagan has a connotation with Western European pagans, but polytheism, and anyway, but technically, yeah, he's a pagan. This event seems to have a similar vibe to what the Queen's passing signifies at a deep level. That is a pretty big deal, I have to say. A Hindu becoming the Prime Minister of Britain, I don't think that could have happened any other time in history. So I think you're right about that. That couldn't have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Certainly wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. So that's a pretty big deal. And it does, I agree with you, it does seem to denote an unconscious shift away from royalty and all of the stuff associated with royalty. The Queen's passing was very psychologically significant, not to mention whatever else somebody might say about this. It says, I shared this only because you made a video earlier on the collective unconscious significance of the Queen's passing. Yeah, like I said, Jedi Black Knight, you don't have to defend yourself. I got cranky with you. I'm human. You're fine. I'm just a cranky guy sometimes. No more questions? We all done? All right then. I'm searching for what to say right now because my friends seem to be telling me, my friends seem to be telling me that something pretty significant is coming. That a shift is imminent. I don't know if the solar wave event is going to come soon or not. I hope it does. But even if that event doesn't come soon, the shift that we are experiencing is, as Jedi Black Knight rightly points out, the shift that we are experiencing is phenomenal. Now, I can't speak for you, but I know for me, just going through this most recent lunar eclipse, I went through a lot of pretty serious discomfort, feeling really raw and frightened and, all kinds of uncomfortable confusing feelings coming up. And, luckily for me, I have my practices, which I do, which, help me to integrate that. My meditations, the 3-1s meditation. By the way, if you want to know, let me just tell you, and I mean this, I have never been more authentically honest in my life. Not that I've lied before, but what I'm about to tell you, I am not hyperbolizing. This is the truth. If you literally want the most powerful combination of energy practices on the planet in the history of the human race, here's what you do. Do the 3-1s meditation that I've taught both openly and on the lightning qigong. Do that meditation after doing the Maoshan 5 elements. If you do the Maoshan 5 element practices and follow that immediately with the 3-1s meditation, you will know what I'm talking about. I don't know any more powerful. And if you want to know, like if I want to go and practice and I want to change reality, that's exactly what I would do. I would do the 5 element practices, and then I would sit my ass down and I would do the 3-1s meditation, and then I would think about exactly what I want to manifest. If, the only thing that would even qualify as being higher than that would be the spirit fighting practices that I haven't taught yet. But I'm just being truthful with you. Whoever's listening, and if you're destined to be somebody who learns these practices, and if you are destined to be somebody who is going to shift reality through this and making this available to you, I don't think I could make it any more available than that. Doesn't mean that those of you who aren't doing the other stuff like the lightning qigong, that you can't do that and the 3-1s meditation also. I'm not trying to create any competition here. All right, but that's my recommendation, and I don't know, I just want to encourage you that everything you've ever wanted is available to you. Everything you've ever wanted that you've never even realized you wanted is available to you. That you no longer have to live in the prison of 3D space-time. You no longer have to live with unbearable loneliness, isolation, guilt, fear, shame, victim mentality, resentment, anger. You don't have to hold on to any of those things. You can let them all go. And I am giving you what I feel fairly confident is the most powerful energy practice currently on the planet, and very likely that's ever been released to human beings before. So take advantage of it, whether it's the free stuff or whether it's the really high level stuff. And if you want to pay me back for coming on here every day and making these videos, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Get up off your ass and do some energy practice and meditation every day. When you do that, you will improve. You will become happier. You will become more prosperous. You will become more healthy. You will connect more deeply to the quantum field of consciousness, which is connected to every single conscious being in the universe, in every single dimension. Do you realize that when you meditate, Shiva is empowered? Do you realize that when you meditate, Shiva thanks you for giving him more consciousness? Kali, Odin, Thor, Zeus, pick your deity. When you meditate and do energy work, every single conscious being in the universe grows in consciousness. And they thank you for that. They have gratitude. They love you for doing that. So if you want to thank me, you can do that, and know that when you do that, you will empower me. I will become more conscious as a result of your meditation. And of course, any of what you do to financially support the channel, of course, I'm also grateful for that as well. Okay, that's it for me, guys. I love you. If I've done or said anything hurtful, dismissive, in any way, know that it's coming from a place of love. I don't think I got into I didn't do anything of that today. Maybe a little bit to Jedi Black Knight. I hope he forgives me. But that's it. All right, I'm going to stop babbling. We're all done. I will see you guys all next time. Take care of yourselves.